Wherever they are. As they come round, flash of colour, this is black zone.
about half left, just coming out across the bay from the Torbay or the Torquay Marina. Going into his standard arrival now, it's the knife edge. Arrival 100 feet, around about 80 knots, and he's basically flying the aircraft sideways, which looks impossible, but it isn't because it's going on. And I'm guessing the fuselage helps here a bit, Colin.
Indeed, the side of the fuselage also gives lift, but the thrust on the propeller is also helping to maintain the altitude he's at. And then you'll wait, you'll hear the jet engines kick in, and there we go.
Ah, the sound of jet on what is an extraordinary, very slow. Turning, here we go, first hover of the day. He's bringing it back over himself, upside down at the moment, into a couple of snap rolls right off the top there. And using that energy now, although we appreciate how much thrust he's got in his engines, there's no doubt that height converted into speed gives him a lot of energy now to pull up into a wonderful spiral tower. It's a vertical climb, just putting in a few rolls there. And letting it fall back in initially a flattish spin. Falling back to his own smoke. The smoke absolutely essential for many reasons. Certainly helps us keep a visibility on it, but of course at the same time it has an aesthetic effect in the display itself. Now already warming himself up there, he's not only pulling G, but of course he's almost disorienting himself by putting those rolls so tightly. Here we go, inverted, going through about 245 to 270 degrees, a lot of right rudder and a lot of left thrust. Now here, not exactly, it's in negative, but he's not pushing hard against it until he comes out of that. And then the transition going between negative and positive, that must be very demanding.
I can't do it. I simply can't do it. I don't know how he does it really. It's literally demanding.
And that's where the training comes in. There's the jets coming back in again now, giving that extra, well, it's 700 pounds of thrust combined. Now pushing up a little bit off negative. Now coming back into positive G, feels a lot more comfortable, but the transition there, literally just a microsecond. Now, in addition to putting on a much bigger wing and the ailerons, of course, giving that additional control as well, big surfaces they have as well. It's not the only one. There's changes. Clearly, the engine itself is much improved here with those bits and pistons. But I understand the undercarriage as well.
Absolutely. Performance is all about weight of the aircraft. So we've gone from the standard steel legs to titanium legs, which are a lot lighter than the standard undercarriage on an aircraft.
Now here we go with the Christmas tree. Talk us through this manoeuvre.
I know there's another 150 odd days to Christmas, but we're bringing you along our Christmas tree. We're literally to get tighter and tighter and climb to the top. They'll hopefully come to a halt at the top of the Christmas tree, becoming the star at the top of the tree, and then he'll spiral down in a flat spin, making the trunk of the tree. You can see how he does it.
It looks as though he's lost it, but of course it isn't. It's perfectly under control, and in many ways it looks as unpleasant as it probably feels. But in the hands of a real expert here, Richard has flying firmly in his DNA. His father was a hunter display pilot, and Richard himself trained in the Air Force and flew the Tornado before going into commercial aviation. This is what his passion really is, and this is what he spends most of his time in the hangar, I suspect, with you, Colin, tweaking this aircraft to absolutely get every ounce of performance out of it.
He's just so passionate. I mean, I know that word gets used a lot maybe, but I don't know another more passionate person who's just wanted to use the pit special got something special and they develop it to be able to do this sort of thing.
And he was just coming out of another hover there, letting it, oh, wonderful.
Well, that was a stall turn with bolts as well. And we can use one jet engine on full power, the other engine on idle, and actually add to the twisting motion of the aircraft.
Keep your eyes peeled on it. It's absolutely the speed that he makes this look incredibly simple, but I can assure you it's definitely not. Comes down in that diagonal slide there. It's an opportunity not just to get a bit more energy, but also I'm guessing there is engine cooling an issue that has to be managed throughout this as well.
We'll just enter, I'll just be quiet while he enters a hovering manoeuvre.
Yeah. Turning that into a roll and then obviously letting the nose fall down. Heavy front end.
Indeed, as you say, this is not a helicopter, this is an aircraft. So as a helicopter hovers, its tail rotor keep it from rotating. But this aircraft doesn't have a tail rotor, so with the torque of the propeller engine, you simply can't stop the fuselage rotating in the opposite direction.
This magic is absolute magic. Look at that. Wonderful demonstration of the sheer amount of thrust available to keep this aircraft standing on its tail. Very graceful, and that was almost slow compared to the previous sequence of manoeuvres.
Richard mentions that it's actually difficult to slow the aircraft down from his high-speed manoeuvres to a hovering manoeuvre. Obviously he's going from 200 miles an hour to stationary.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's actually not that easy to do.
So the best way to do that is just to point it directly up at the sky.
Indeed.
Yeah. Now I mentioned a little bit about engine maintenance there, including a standard issue. Here we go. Head drops down and back into safe flight, building up that energy again. It must be where there's clearly a lot going on in the cockpit of the aircraft, just getting through the maneuvers, but managing the different engine controls must be very tricky at the same time.
Absolutely. But this is a hybrid aircraft, so we have to have three quantities of fuel on board. We need the aviation jet fuel, and we need the aviation gasoline fuel, and we also need the smoke oil. So there are three separate tanks in that aircraft. It's very complicated. In fact, if you look inside the aircraft, if you ever get a chance, it's much like a microbrewery in there. It's so complicated.
That's a great description. I have seen it, yeah. I've been up to the hangar and chatted to him to see if he was playing. Well, he doesn't play, I mean, it's just tweaking things. Now, the smoke you mentioned there, of course, this all leaves smoke, a bit like Ondina baby oil, and delightful. And another trademark sequence from Richard as he comes to the end of his display. Going up to is what I think is now his final hover, around about 800 feet, nearly
landed, and that's his final flight.
Yeah. And a cracker too. He got lots of height on this one, rolling it all the way up, over his head, bringing it back. The world goes upside down for him. So here now, arriving right in front of us, we have Phil Bird in the Jet Provost T5. Now this is an extraordinary machine. It comes from a very, very long family of aircraft. The Jet Provost family have trained literally thousands of people around the world. The first Jet Provost was designed back in the mid-50s as a requirement for the old hunting Percival Provost, and the prototype of that first flew in June 1954. But after a whole series of developments, the T3 became very much the go-to primary training machine, but this the T5 a much improved version of that aircraft. They were in service right through until the mid-90s. Now mostly retired, but examples of this are reasonably popular and in the hands of private operators. This particular aircraft was built at Wharton as the 38th Mark V JP, entered service with 3 FTS at leaving. One of the interesting things about this particular aircraft is it was used by the training school's aerobatics team, the Gemini pair, in 1973, back in the day when most squadrons and indeed certainly all the stations had their own display team as well. But that's all sadly long gone, and now most focused on just 3 or 4 different aircraft items across the fleet. Aircraft was used at 1 FTS for basic training for a short time before then going on to 6 FTS, where it was used for both navigation and low-level air defence training at Royal Air Force Fitting Range. Phil Bird may be a name known to some of you because he's no stranger to air display flying. He joined the Air Force around about just over 20 years ago. Fast jet flying on the Tornado F3. And he saw operational service on the quick reaction alerts. Now, of course, very much a typhoon activity, but also was based out in the Falkland Islands as well. He's better known for having been the Hawk display pilot back in 2012. And featured within the Queen's Jubilee during the course of that year. The Eminent spent most of his, the rest of his time with the Typhoon fleet involved with Operation Shader, flying combat missions in Iraq and Syria. Nowhere near the power available in this particular aircraft though, it's the Rolls-Royce Viper. Top speed of around about 420 knots and a reasonable range of G plus 5.5 to 3.5, and a high altitude of endurance about 3 hours, but generally between 1 and 2 hours. So speeding through that display just to catch up on a bit of time. Felt grateful thanks there to Phil Bird and Also to Jeff Bell, who bought the aircraft many years back, and very proud owner. And you can hear behind me the RT going bananas.